Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today I want to do a review or pseudo-review or whatever you want to call this video, but it's going to be a lengthy look at Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and I want to go deep into what this game is, and the reason I'm doing this is because this franchise is actually one of my favorite franchises to pop up in quite a long time, and the fact that this game was coming out was a breath of fresh air for me, and I really wanted to give this the look it deserved. Now, for those of you who don't know about Mirror's Edge, I'm going to sort of segment this video into multiple things. We're going to look at, the history of Mirror's Edge a little bit, graphics, sound, story, all that kind of stuff. Just segregate it out and, focus on each point individually. So for those of you who don't know what Mirror's Edge is, Mirror's Edge was a game that originally came out in 2008 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It later released for the PC, and then it came on the iOS devices, and then I think it had a Windows Phone release. And this game was a breath of fresh air at the time. You played as a character named Faith. Faith was a runner in a post-apocalyptic, a dystopian city, if you will, a cyberpunk future. And as you all know, I personally really love the cyberpunk genre. I'm a sucker for any Deus Ex. I'm a sucker for anything cyberpunk, to be honest. And Mirror's Edge, when it first came out, again, it was a very unique title. It came out by DICE, people behind Battlefield, and I'd like to call this game DICE's Manhunt. It wasn't gory, but it certainly was one of their games that was like, okay, really? We're going this route? DICE wanted to shake up the genre, and they definitely shook it up. This game was unique in the sense that it really focused on parkour. It was different than any other game, and until Catalyst came out, there wasn't really any other game like it. Of course, there were elements of parkour introduced in other games, such as Dying Light, but I think Mirror's Edge is a unique game in itself. The world it portrays, the environments it has, even the story, as silly as it may be, is its own, and it does it, and it does it in its own unique manner. And I played Mirror's Edge a few days ago on a stream, and I really fell in love with that game again, enough to the point that I was doing the time trials again, and I got the DLC, actually, the pure time trials for the Xbox 360, so I'm just starting to do those. I haven't done those at all yet, but essentially I've come back to my giant Mirror's Edge binge. So, history-wise, when I got Mirror's Edge, I got it, I think, a year or something after its initial release. Actually, I think I got it alongside... I picked it up alongside Halo Wars at the time, so I think it was during its initial release phase. But to me, Mirror's Edge was the game that I bought for my Xbox 360, and I finished it that same night. The game's not terribly long, it's a short title, and honestly, the game's pretty cheap now, so if you can pick it up, you can, get it. I think you can get it for just a few bucks and get a fair amount of enjoyment out of it. Give it a try. It's definitely a unique game, is all I'm trying to say. So I played the game, and I definitely enjoyed it at the time. I enjoyed it so much that initially after finishing it and watching the credits roll out, I immediately hit New Game and played through the game again on the hardest difficulty, and then I nearly got all the achievements, save for some of the time trials, because in all honesty, I couldn't be fucked to do some of those time trials. They were really intense. I did some of the speed runs, and you get the point. I was a Mirror's Edge sort of pseudo fanboy at the time. So when I heard that they were making this game, I was excited. As soon as I saw the trailers from DICE and the E3 reveals, I was like, great, Mirror's Edge is coming back. And it was kind of a weird thing, because the original game, although it was certainly unique, it didn't necessarily do well in terms of sales. I mean, it did get good reviews. There were some sites that gave it criticism on its, albeit shorter, length, and the fact that after beating the game, obviously, there's not a whole lot more content. But regardless, the game did get a lot of good reviews, which was a good thing. Unfortunately, the game, sales-wise, didn't really do all that well. I mean, it didn't meet projections for EA, but I think it still met enough for them to warrant at least giving it a sequel. That and its cult classic vision by everyone. There's a huge following around it, a cult classic following, so of course, bound to release again with a bit more production value. There's a hope that it eventually does become a major franchise for EA, and I hope it does. So, anyways, here we are. I'm a few days before the release, recording this video. I got the game a little earlier, retail for PS4. I did play a lot of it on the Xbox One through the early access on EA. I was going to try getting it for PC, but I figured it wasn't going to be too different anyway, so I just played through the game on PS4. So anyways, the game is out by the time this video has released, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst is playable by the masses. So As far as me playing it, I played through the game. I've done a bit of the content here and there, and I'm well on my way to doing it all over again because I really, really enjoyed this game, and I'll tell you why. Now, before I continue, while I did say I enjoyed this game, I'm not going to specifically say it's the most perfect game ever. It, of course, has flaws, and it has very glaring flaws. So this is, again, a good and a bad. It's a review of the game. So Mirror's Edge Catalyst, it's a reboot of the story, and we're going to focus on the story here. It's a reboot, sort of, so to speak, for the franchise. A reboot in the sense that it really doesn't have anything to do with the original game story. So if you were thinking that I need to play the original Mirror's Edge to catch up on the lore, the dystopian future, you don't. There are characters in the game. I don't want to give any spoilers here because the game just came out. I want you all to play it. So I'm just going to say, you know, obviously Faith is there. You'll come across some parallels of characters from the other game, from the predecessor. But for the most part, it's a fresh new outing on the franchise. You have a city, you know, the City of Glass, and we'll get to that in a bit, because that is really the star of this game. But as far as the story is considered, the factions, they're all new for this game. It's a reboot. And it's not an origin story, because from the game, as soon as you start playing it, you're not really playing the origins of Faith. Faith is already well established in this universe. So you're playing as Faith when she is released from prison. I'm going to give some details on the story here. She did a run went bad, she went to prison for 2 years, she comes out and continues this all over again. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to come across conspiracies regarding the City of Glass. You're going to go to multiple areas, see different elements of the city, and that's about it. I'm not going to go too much into spoiler territory because there are, story elements that I want you all to experience for yourself. But as far as the story goes, it's nothing terribly special. And this is a negative point, but I'm not going to treat it too seriously, and I'll go into that. Why is because in the original Mirror's Edge, the story wasn't also great either. But the story was serviceable enough to take you from point A to point B. In the original Mirror's Edge, the story was there again just to connect you from level to level. If you were paying real attention to it, it wasn't really that engaging, it wasn't an amazing story to begin with. Mirror's Edge Catalyst, it's better because the story is actually given more thought, but at the same time, the writing here isn't that enthralling to begin with. There are twists in this game that you can call on literally from like the 4th level for the ending. It is that easy to read. And the story, again, despite the world being very interesting, the story that it tells is, it's not generic, I guess you could say. It's just very predictable. And ultimately, I'm not going to say that is necessarily a bad thing, because despite it being very predictable, I still wanted to see how it played out, so it kept my interest going. As far as the actual portrayal of the story, the acting, this is the first time a video game I have ever said loudly to myself, pornography has better acting than this game. Seriously, if you listen to some of the line deliveries this game has, it's pretty cringy. The story isn't anything to really write home about, but it's serviceable enough for you to keep playing and just enthrall yourself in for the time you're playing. The story will take you about 8-10 hours to finish. If you rush it, maybe 8 hours essentially it'll take you. But there is a ton of side content, and well, that's a whole nother point we'll get to. Let's cover the graphics first of all. If you're looking at the game, you're going to notice that it's running at 60 frames per second. And here's the best part about it. On every platform you play this game on, it's 60 frames. Xbox One, it's 60 frames, PS4, it's 60 frames, and PC, obviously it's 60 frames provided you have the sufficient hardware. The best part is it's almost a near locked 60 frames. I haven't been having a lot of judder. Despite me playing on the Xbox One or the PS4. As far as the resolutions go, the Xbox One is noticeably softer. It runs at 720p, PS4 runs at 900p, and PC runs at whatever the fuck you want, because, you can set the resolution on there. All platforms have an FOV slider, so if you find that the FOV is a little constricting, which it's gonna be, you can change it so it, widens up for you when you're playing on the console. But as far as I can tell, the frame rate runs smooth 60, and it's kind of a shock because single-player games typically aim for 30 on consoles just so they can eke more graphics out of it. I'm glad they picked 60 frames because it makes the game so much more responsive and fluid, and ultimately that is the key for why this game, in my opinion, is really fun to play. So as far as graphics go, it runs on Frostbite 3, and you can tell it's very technically pretty, but I think alongside that is it also looks aesthetically pretty too. From an art style, this game looks beautiful. The City of Glass, again, in my opinion, is the real star for this game, because ever since GTA 4 came out, I haven't been this enthralled in an in-game city yet. This game, like, I would literally run around for hours on end just looking at the tiniest nook and cranny, just taking in the vistas that you will see playing this game. It looks beautiful in the morning, it looks beautiful at night, it looks beautiful whatever the settings. This game is a very, very pretty looking title. And it's great that it's also running at 60. This is definitely one of the prettiest games this generation I've played in terms of its visual style and even the technical style that it goes for. Does it get a little rough around the edges when you look close? Yeah, the textures can be a little N64-ish at times, but for the most part, the game really holds up visual style very well. There's something weird on the PS4 though. I don't know if it's something up with my retail copy or the game hadn't been patched when I was playing, but for the PS4 I had a massive texture streaming problem. With the Xbox One I didn't. So I don't know, maybe it's just a little PS4 bug, but so far that's just one of the issues that I had on that. It's not terribly game-breaking, I just noticed it. I haven't played the PC version at all, so I don't know about that. I assume it just runs better than anything else. I heard that it got a massive performance boost, but regardless, that's just a look at the graphics. As far as gameplay goes, and this is where the real meat of this video comes from, the gameplay in this game is absolutely amazing. The game is open world, and it's got its negatives there. The open world has a lot of open world fluff in it. You know, the collectibles and all that crap. This game has a ton of collectibles. Like, you got security chips, you got fucking balls of data, you got God knows what else, and it's just a whole lot of that. You got recordings, you got documents, you got a bunch of collectibles, okay? You got a lot of them. And that's not fun, because half the time you're just collecting stuff, and it's just one of those things that it's the checklist open world bullshit, where you gotta fill out a checklist, and it's not terribly exciting. You get like 10 XP a piece for every collectible you get. In all honesty, it's better off just doing missions. And if you're gonna play this game, definitely don't do any of the side content initially. I would much recommend you play the single player campaign all the way through and then do the side content, because the more and more you play the single player campaign, again, it's not terribly long, but you unlock some new traversal methods. You got all the regular movement that you had in the original game, you know, wall running, coiling, and all that stuff. Some of them you have to unlock, but you'll unlock them fairly quickly. In Catalyst, you get a mag rope. It's basically a grappling hook that you can use to attach and swing, pull down objects, and grab and just fly up to, far off ledges that are above you, and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun to use. It gives me a whole Assassin's Creed Syndicate vibe, which I like. And ultimately, that's just the new traversal mechanics there. So you want to play through the game's story first to unlock all this stuff before you start doing the side content. It makes the side content a little more fun, and you get to unlock more pats that way. And speaking about that too, the side content in the game, aside from the collectibles, it has your standard side quests. You got some of these areas called grid nodes, which are my favorite because they're like traversal puzzles, and it's a whole blast to play through some of them too. Even the side missions themselves, some of them are a little uninteresting, but some of them take you to these new areas that you got to infiltrate. You get to infiltrate a lot in this game, and by no means is it a stealth action game. There's no actual sneaking going on. Whenever you come across enemies, you have a combat mechanic, which is your standard light attack, heavy attack. You can use wall runs to add on more damage to your normal attacks and stuff like that. So it's an intuitive parkour system. It's simple, yet you can take it to a more masterful level if you really know how to do that kind of stuff, and you'll pick it up fairly quickly. So you have that going for you. There's no guns in this game anytime around, and thank fucking God for that, because the guns in the original game were no fun, let me tell you. They weren't fun on the PC with keyboard and mouse, and I sure as hell didn't like them on my Xbox 360 controller when I initially played the game. This game doesn't have guns though, so thank you for that. Aside from the combat's good. You have different enemy types. You have your standard, light infiltrator types, and all the way up to these sentinels that are like impossible to hit from the front. You have to like juke your way around them and kick them in the back and stuff. And you can kick enemies into each other. You can kick them off like fucking ledges and shit. And it's actually really fun if you get into it. You can actually have some really, really sweet, like, hand-to-hand moments in this game, if you know how to time it right. Trust me, I've had exhilarating fights in this game. Some of the fights are easy because Faith can take like 50 bullets before she even gets to a near death state. So you won't be dying often in this game if you have, you know, even a bit of experience with any kind of first-person shooter. But it's not about the combat in this game, it's about the parkour, and that's what I really wanted to focus on. This game takes the parkour level from the original, which I thought was already great enough, to a new level. Like, the parkour is really fun. Like, you can sit there and you can play this game for hours, not do any mission or any side content, and you can run around and just find new areas of glass to explore, because again, it's a pretty looking city. But this city isn't just pretty. Why it's the star to me is because for every possibility of a route that you can have, there's always 4 or 5 other that you can find. And that's the beauty of it. There's always a way that you can shave off a few seconds during a run to somewhere else. And that's what I love about it. Usually when I'm halfway through games like these, I always abuse the fast travel system, because at that point I'm just too fucked to care about the city enough. Like, you can drive maybe in a you know, in a game for 5 times from point A to point B until it starts to get really boring. Here, you sort of challenge yourself. You're like, oh my god, I'm gonna figure out these new shortcuts. Or sometimes you might find a time trial that other people have created, because this game has user-generated content. You can make your own time trials, and you might do somebody else's time trial, and that adds to it. You get some online ranking through that and whatnot. Or sometimes you might uncover a new side quest or a new delivery run to do, which tests your abilities even more. Because the game, it doesn't specifically even tell you routes itself. It gives you a direct route, but it leaves it up to you, the player, to find out the more intricate routes yourself. So in that regard, it really doesn't hold your hands when it comes to navigation, and it shouldn't, because that's a core aspect of the game. So thank you for that. Aside from just the traversal aspect itself too, it also makes the collectibles a little more bearable, because you're spending your time running around the city anyways, so you're going to pick up these collectibles on the way. You're not actively going out of your way to hunt for stupid stuff like this. When the gameplay is so fun, you're just going to be ending up doing it anyways. It's a lot like Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a great game, but it's an open world with a shit ton of checklists. Literally, checklists. It is a checklist open world game, but the gameplay is so fun in the game anyways that you're going to be doing it regardless, because the game is just fun to play. And that's what I can say about Mirror's Edge Catalyst. If you love the original game, you're going to love this game's gameplay, because it's more of that, but refined and added upon. So you're going to be playing it anyways, and you're going to do all the collectibles and side content just because you're playing the game. And that's what I love about it. That's what makes it so fun to go back to, because you can always fire it up and just breathe in and really run and take on the city. And what's even amazing about it too is the gameplay is so simplistic. You know, there's no difficult, hard concept to really know. The game literally gives you a jump button, a slide button, and, you know, if you bought an ability, you can flip around, do a quick 180 and whatnot, and it has a quick shift button that, you know, instantly makes Faith run, and that's it. After that, the controls are that simple. But that's the best part. Because they're so simple, traversing the city is so much more enjoyable, because it's so much more, you know, once you get used to it, you're going to be pulling off these amazing dashes with so much ease and finesse that you're going to look like a goddamn pro in like an hour or 2 hours. And that's what's amazing, because let me tell you, this game really shines when you're running nonstop on the flow. Like when you're going fast, you're jumping through hoops, you're coiling through low objects, you're wall running to wall climbing, you're hook shotting and swinging across massive expanses. That's when this game shines. I have to say, the worst level in this game is probably the best, is 100 times better than the best level in the last game. This game will take you to areas, to runs that are so exhilarating, it's taken the breath right out of me. Like seriously, one of the runs, and I'm not going to tell you which one it is, it literally made me like hold my breath, because there were moments in it where I was like, holy fucking shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And it has a lot of those holy shit moments that I love. That's what I love about Mirror's Edge Catalyst. You know, that's gameplay like that. I haven't experienced that in a long time, and to have those thrills, I'm glad a game like Mirror's Edge came out, because it delivers those thrills. Now, is it worth $60? I don't know about that. I bought it for $60, you know, out of my own pocket, and I feel, you know, value out of it. I'm a huge Mirror's Edge fan. I love the gameplay, so I got my money's worth out of it. But this is a game that has a lot of open world fluff. There's, you know, the campaign's not terribly long. And after that, you're going to be doing some time trials that are user-generated. There's a lot of side content, and I guess if you like that, there you go. But for $60 US, you might want to chill on the price a little bit. Maybe for 45 it's worth it, but for a full 60, there is a lot of content, and sure, the game is exhilarating and everything, but it is one of those heavy open-world fluffy type games. And again, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. The gameplay is amazing, but, you know, to me, if you're not a huge fan, I wouldn't dump 60 on it straight off. 60 is a lot of cash to dump on any game, or anything really, so, you know, you might want to wait until the price drops a little bit, so it's more of a well-rounded and more economical package. Ultimately, though, I've talked about Mirror's Edge Catalyst for 20 minutes, and I feel like I can talk about it more, but I think I've said enough. I think I've said everything I need to. The game is amazing, and I didn't want to give it sort of a numbered kind of review or a quick review because I really wanted to focus on everything that I talked about. And I wanted to make sure that this video covers sort of everything. That being said, this is Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and I'm going to end this video off. I'm going to ask you what you thought about this game in the comments below. Do you think it looks good? And please tell me if I did an okay job at this. I'm no expert reviewer by anything, but I do like to focus on things that I'm personally really interested for. So I wanted to focus on this game, and I wanted to really set out and commit to make a video like this. So let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mudahar, and I gotta run.